Tintinnabulating. It means making a sound like bells. Look at all these words. Look at all these definitions. I put these into Google Classroom for you so that you can download them, learn them. I also put in a game. Go to Google Classroom and you can play it. It's a vocabulary game for the book called The Boy Who Loved Words by Ron Schotter. Do you love words? There are in this world people who are born collectors. Some collect shells or stones, others feathers. Some have even been known to collect tiny teaspoons. Such a one was Selig. He was a collector of words. Selig loved everything about words, the sound of them in his ears, tintinnabulating, the taste of them on his tongue, tantalizing, the thought of them when they percolated in his brain, stirring, and most especially the feel of them when they moved his heart, like the word mama. Whenever Selig heard a word he liked, he'd shout it loud, jot it down on a slip of paper, then stuff it into his pocket to save. Such a collector. Selig's pockets positively brimmed with words. He stuffed new ones inside his shirt, down his sock, up his sleeves, and under his hat. While other children busied themselves with bats, nets, and all manner of balls on the periphery, Selig was there listening. Here he is on the periphery of the game, listening and jotting down words while everybody played football. His father, a practical man, sold sturdy shoes for a living and wondered what good could possibly come from a son with such a strange predilection. His mother, a large, lovely woman from the old country, worried, could her beautiful boy find happiness? Waving her arms in the air, she was like a windmill of worry. A metaphor? A windmill of worry. As time went on, people began calling Selig by a new name, Wordsworth. Hey, Wordsworth! Kids would giggle. Here's a word for your collection, oddball. Oddball, Selig repeated. The silly sounded word should have made him giggle, but instead, it made him feel very lonely and sad. I'm wondering what this teacher is thinking. She doesn't look happy. One night, Selig had a dream. Alone in front of an unusual emporium, he encountered an oversized amphora. Curious, Selig gave it a tap. Swoosh! Out popped a swarthy, swirling man. Gin! Selig exclaimed. Then genie! Enjoying the tang of tasty new words. What do you want? The genie asked. A wish? Such strange and savory words, such an offer. At a loss for words, Selig suddenly knew. Is it true? Am I really such an oddball? Oddball, said the genie. You are Wordsworth, the lover of words. Already you have what people search their whole life for, an enthusiasm. You have passion. What you need now is a purpose, a mission. Then without a word of warning, the genie disappeared. Selig awakened from his dream. Lickety-split, he packed a rucksack with a pillow and blanket, apples, honey, cream soda, and his entire collection of words. He knew exactly what he was going to do. Selig took to the road, determined to find his purpose. On the trail of his purpose, Selig's senses sharpened. He noted the nod and toddle of tulips in the wind, the sway and swagger of tree branches. How at evening the light dimmed to announce the arrival of twilight and stars. Dusk, Selig noted, adding that short and enchanting word to his collection. But in time, Felix's step grew heavy. Under the weight of so many words, it was harder and harder to move. He was shuffling and shambling when he might have been rambling and ambling. Perhaps what he needed to do was lighten his load, but how? Throw words away? Waste them? Impossible. Words are far too precious. Selig was too tired to think. His exhausted brain could only imagine one thing. Slumber. A splendid word, he said to himself. Sadly, he was too sleepy to even write it down in his notebook. In front of Selig stood a large and lovely tree. He removed his jacket, stuffed like his mama's strudel with words. Tenderly he hung each word on his own separate branch, as if putting it to bed for the night. With a sip of cream soda and a nibble of honeyed apple, Selig clambered, then curled in a crook of the tree. Snug, he thought, and fell directly to sleep. Comfortably cradled there, he dreamed of his mama, his mission, and macaroons, his favorite cookie. During the night, a pacing poet, unable to sleep for want of a word, found himself under the same tree, gazing hopelessly at the moon. Night after night, he had been struggling to find the right words to describe it. Suddenly, mysteriously, a swirling wind blew up. 4 of Selig's words sailed off at their branches, reaching skyward. The distracted poet caught them. Discarding the word macaroon, he held tightly to lozenge, lemon, and licorice. The moon, he wrote in his notebook, growing more and more excited, with each word, melted like a lemon lozenge in the licorice sky. Is this a metaphor or a simile? Look at the word like. That's your hint. The moon melted like a lemon lozenge in the licorice sky. My stars, the poet shouted, exultant, that's it. The following morning, Selig awoke to what could only be called a rhapsody of birds and words. The poet was reading his newest poem aloud. A poem, chock-a-block, with Selig's words. Wiping the sleepy crumplings from his eyes, Selig scrambled down the tree and saluted. Your poem, he told him, contains some of my favorite words. They are beautifully written. You need to use them. Why, thank you. For once the words just seemed to come to me. Upon my word, how lucky I am, he said. What, may I ask, is your name? I should like to dedicate my poem to you. For a moment, Selig hesitated. Then suddenly, for the first time ever, he proudly proclaimed, They call me Wordsworth. It was then that Selig realized his mission. It was spreading the word, sharing his words with others. From that day forth, Selig's steps were light and filled with purpose. Ever the collector, he added new words every day that pleased him. But now, whenever he felt word heavy, he discovered the ideal places to sprinkle, disperse, and broadcast them. In a way, a baker whose pastries had always been ignored found his shop filled with a mob of hungry customers. When the baker's back was turned, Selig, on a macaroon break, had tossed some of his favorite words into the air. Crispy and crunchy, landed next to the crumpets. Upon my word, how lucky I am, the baker exclaimed when he turned back and saw his voracious customers. Neighbors realized they were bickering when the words fuss, hubbub, and jibber-jabber rained down on them, and they stopped their fighting. Selig watched them grow still and gaze kindly upon one another after he cast the words hush, harmony, and chum in their direction. And so, by word of mouth, the legend began. It's Wordsworth, people would whisper when suddenly the right word occurred to them. He is near. They would nod knowingly. Upon my word, how lucky we are. Years passed. Selig was a man now, also a myth. But while he delighted in his work, he found that once again he was lonely. Solo, he sighed. One day, after launching the words limber, spry, and gusto toward an aging, unhappy man, Selig heard a sound on the breeze. A single, pulsing, marvelous note floated through the air and found its way straight into his heart. Mellifluous, he exclaimed. Pursuing that perfect note, Selig found a young woman seated by a lake, playing a lute. Suddenly his heart was aflutter. Tremulously he asked, May I have a word with you? What is your name? Well, they call me Melody, the woman sang out. The music of her voice, combined with the charm of her words, was to Selig the sweetest of all sounds. It was love at first listen. Together they journeyed back to Selig's hometown, to his mother and father. What a reunion. How his mother smiled when she saw them. Worried that they looked thin, she cooked Selig's favorite foods, brisket, dumplings, plum crumble, strudel, and of course macaroons. To comfort their tired feet, Selig's father cobbled the couple his sturdiest shoes. Rested and restored, Selig resumed his life's work, joyfully gathering and scattering words on the wind. Since then, word by word, legions of lucky people have discovered and delighted in them. You too may find yourself lucky if one day, while you are thinking or writing or simply speaking, the perfect word just seems to come to you. If so, you'll know that Selig is near. And on special days, if you feel like humming or suddenly bursting into song, you'll know that Melody is with him. Upon my word, you may say, how lucky I am. The end. I hope you enjoyed this book. Go to Google Classroom and learn these words. Have fun with vocabulary. My favorite one today was tintinnabulating, making a sound like bells.